Hello, my name is Desiree Calvin Lawrence. I'm not running for president, but what I can tell you is I'm running for a very little space in your mind. A space where you can determine if certain things that we perceive as true or infallible in society, if they are actually supposed to be given merit. I'm gonna go down to the time when we were kids. Before we became kids, running around the streets, having fun and doing whatever we wanted to do, we had a connection from the womb of our moms. And from that very instant, we started doing one thing, something that society is known for. We started communicating. Now, how do you place communication in terms of a child in the womb of a mom? Communication is very powerful because you seem to know exactly when your child is feeling uncomfortable. You tend to react to them and find ways to appease them, yet they're not speaking one word or language you actually understand verbally. This is from a different sphere of interaction entirely, and they communicate with you. You understand it. It's more like energy communicating with energy, and it's something that we have to realize in who we are as a person. We communicate with language, and that language is common to every tribe, nationality, whoever you want to place language on. You seem to know they have a form or mode of communication. Alright? Now, why do I talk about language? It's very important that you realize that most of the things we're facing in society today is simply based on the psychology of the language. Let's say, for example, you go to Spain and you realize they love eating, being merry, having fun with their family and all that, creating family. You're like, okay, I love this culture, I love these people. You hang out with them and you don't want to leave. You learn their language, you're like, wow, what an amazing people. Or you go to Italy, you do the same thing. Or you go to France, you do the same thing. You go to Germany, you figure out something and you're like, wow, this is a place I want to be too. You go to Russia, you feel like this is where I want to be. You can just join the language, and for some strange reason, you are able to connect with them on a different level. Every language has within it an inherent seed that allows you to connect with its people in kind. I say this because I'm going to bring it back to the English language. The English language is a language of polarities. Extreme negatives, extreme positives. It's not like you can simply say this is a positive rendition of this version. It's either this or that, and there's no gray areas, and they're stackly pitted against each other in the process. So let me take this a little further. Positive, negative, dark, light, or white, black, or good, evil, or woman, man, wherever way you put it. But I'm going to even put everything on the positive side, how society sees things. You can just put anyone anywhere you want, but you are actually putting them on different sides. So let's put it on different sides. Man, woman, positive, negative. That's exactly how society views it. Good, bad. You see what I'm saying? Opposites. Love, hate, friend, enemy, poor, rich, poor, and it goes on. Trust, distrust, able, disabled, Republican, Democrat, duplicate. No, but Republican, Democrat, and you have all these things that it is pitted against each other, has stacked opposites of the other one. So you understand why there's very hard boundaries that we created that makes it very hard for us to actually connect with others simply because of this level of opposites. It does not create a good ground for equality, justice. It just creates a strong divide of like good and evil, good or bad. It's like they have created such a paradigm where you cannot really place anyone on a good side and be part of it because you're on the other side somehow. That is what is going on in society. Society is giving us a reason not to be able to trust ourselves, not because we can't trust ourselves, but because the world itself, the categories of war, positive and negatives, is so stacked up against us, is so indoctrinated into our thinking pattern, into our mode of behaviors, that automatically we see the other one as an enemy if they're not on your side. You see the other one as distrustful if they're not on your side. You see the other one as enemy if they're not on your side. It's just so much polarities that is extreme that makes it very hard to connect on a level of brotherhood or unity as humans, especially with the English language. Now, I've learned English all my life and probably would not be able to do without it. But that's the same case with many people. And you realize that most people that speak English, that have a second language from a different country, or have been exposed to languages in a different country, they're very indifferent to racial disparities. Very indifferent. They cannot empathize as much as those who might have gone through a history that is laden in complete attack of anything, I would say, foreign to that land. So let's break it down a little further. I said positive, negatives. Positive, negatives. You see all those positive and negatives, and they actually have a way of influencing every decision you make, regardless. Now let me break it down and tell you about the races. The term black, the term white, those two terms, and I want you to take it with an open mind and look at where I'm coming from. When you look at all the positive and negatives, white, bright, shine, light, anything positive that you can think of, once you start aligning it in that dictionary, you see that white also falls in that category. Now when you pit it against the opposite side, you have black and you have the term black and all the things that fall under in that section. They're not positives. Who is behind creating that language? It's not necessarily people of color. They didn't create that language, but the fact that we place so much authority in that language means we're thinking within the box created in society. So that means if by authority certain individuals will have to call themselves black, then they have to also fall under the environment that has been forced against them by nature of the language itself. So the problem in society is not necessarily changing the laws so that it can accommodate more fairness and justice to people all over the world, whatever way you decide to look at it. It's not about that. It's about understanding that there's an inherent psychology in the language itself that makes it hard to connect on a very harmonious level. If I went to Spain, I'd probably love to dance and eat and have fun with friends and not even have a problem. Probably the same thing in Italy. I might go to Germany, I just chill out and just want to love everybody. Who knows? You go to all these different places and you find a part of you that you can connect with these people, because the language is not designed to create such a level of opposites or unwelcome kind of mindset to certain individuals. It's not like that. So, having said all that, positives, negative. You look at it closely in the language and you understand there are certain things that have been put so deep down into our thinking. I can't possibly empathize with individuals that spent 400 years in a closed up state of mind towards the rest of the world, and they need to find their voice. This is something no one can empathize with except you've been through it. No one can empathize. And you have to understand that it has nothing to do with the people. It has something to do with the language that has created a divide right from the very, very beginning. That word, black, white, man, woman, all these things, able, disabled, whatever you can think of, falls under those tenets, and makes it very hard for anyone to connect without going into absolute sides of the spectrum, just absolute sides. You can't be on this side and then you have to be on either side, and it's either good or bad. One way or the other, they want you to align different things that might not even fall under any of those categories, but make it either good or bad. So society has trained our minds in a way that forces us to think within a box of ideologies. And those ideologies might be the exact same things in our societies, on the same premise of which we want to create the laws that changes the flaws of that very understanding that we're starting off in the first place trying to change. Society is something that we need to start looking into deeply in terms of how we interact. Is this language creating a divide? And is it beyond just changing the laws? Is it being able to look at a way to connect people on a deeper level? I would rather choose redefining man as the branches or the tree and the woman as the fruits of the tree. For some strange reason, at that point, you see a woman as an extension of you, something that should be desired and not something that should be, destroyed. Or you see black and white, you use it in a different way. I don't call black people by authority black because I don't believe in colors. I don't think colors should be a way to define anyone, because it becomes absolute opposites of one another when you use black and white. That's an absolute way of creating enmity between any two people. They won't trust each other. They won't want, you will say one is poor, one is rich. You will create all kinds. It's a psychological warp that needs to be, completely abolished. But I strongly believe that colors should not be used to define ourselves. I would rather, instead of calling anyone black, and like I said, I don't call anyone black, this is what I call them. I call them Solaric. 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 And Solaric is simply someone that has been defined by the solar heat of the sun. The sun comes down on their skin and their pigmentation develops and they have a darker shade of color. But instead of saying they are black or white, creating this opposite dynamics, we simply say Solaric, somebody that has been conditioned by the solar heat of the sun. And it's more natural. It doesn't create too much of a layer of opposite. It just makes it natural, someone that you can connect to naturally. Okay, it's just connected by the sun. I'm always under the sun. It's okay. And different solutions like that. But that's the key to everything I've been trying to say today. How do we make sure we use words as a way to be an extension of ourselves so that we see each other from a reflection of ourselves and not a part of ourselves that we should get rid of, that is unlikable, dislikable, uncomfortable to be around. All those things is all within the language, and the language finds a way to create that divide without us even knowing. So I am a Solaric American. That's how I want to see myself, and that's how I see everyone that is of color. Solaric Americans, people who have been defined by the solar heat of the sun. And if this interests you, I want you to contact me, Reach out to my page if you want to get a show so I explain this even in detail. Or if you want to even hear more things like how to completely erase the deficit of the United States of America. Now you think that's not possible? I have something that just might do that. So when you think of these things, you know that you can think outside the box. If you don't think outside the box, you'll be held down within the stereotypes of society and made and forced to live by their norms, even though it's not who you are. You take care, and it's been a pleasure sharing my heart.